Welcome back to the Gathering Place podcast, where we are your host. I am Joe Seaman, a real estate agent in Georgia and South Carolina, and this is my lovely bride, Hope, chaos coordinator, Jill of all trades, whatever you want to call her.
I like chaos coordinator.
Chaos coordinator?
And Jill, I like those two together.
There's a lot that goes on that Hope handles.
There is.
I think we say that at every single introduction because without Hope, without me bringing Hope into our business that she fought for so long, I don't know how we would get half the stuff we get done without Hope being on board because, of course, we're together all the time. She hears what I need done. She knows what needs to be done. She knows my complaints. She knows my strengths. She knows my weaknesses. And then she just fills in all the gaps. And so it just works out beautifully.
Well, I try.
On my end.
Sometimes there's like 3 other human beings pulling at me too, so I don't always get to fill in the gaps. But I do try. Like, that's what we try to do. And vice versa, you do the same thing for us. So there we go. Jill of all trades.
Chaos coordinator and Jill of all trades.
There
instead
we
of a
go.
Jack
That's
of
my
all
new
trades.
tagline.
So,
there we go.
Anyways, we are in February.
Yes. We just had Valentine's Day.
Just had Valentine's Day last week. It's a nice rainy February. I was talking about the pollen being out. My truck was covered in pollen yesterday morning, and those of you who have eye issues or contacts can probably relate. And it feels like you just want to take your eyeballs out and just wash them because the pollen gets trapped underneath your contacts and feels like something's just scratching on your eyes all day. So welcome to the South. If you have eye problems, you're going to have pollen under your contacts.
Yeah, and then you have like the pollen that no one really sees. You know, a lot of people think pollen is that yellow stuff that we see, but that's not. There's that as well as the kind you don't see that gives you allergy issues, so on and so forth. So it's the season.
So talking about pollen and plants, plants blooming and all that. Like, I love springtime. It's my favorite season. Spring and summer are my favorite seasons because
we are exiting my 2 favorite seasons, and that would be fall and winter.
Hope loves to bundle up. She loves to have lots of layers and clothes on and blankets.
For a lot of reasons, because it's just to get snuggly and warm, and then just, you can hide a lot too.
Not me. I love plants. I love being outside. I love being at the beach. I love warm weather. I love all the warm activities that spring and summer bring on. I love being on the lake, on a boat. I just love hot weather. And then too, I'm the opposite. I don't like wearing a ton of clothes. And so I'm good with like a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops.
I don't like to be hot. I don't like to sweat.
So
but
I was telling someone yesterday at church that I've gotten to where I literally despise putting on dress clothes anymore. Like, I just don't like putting on all those layers of clothes.
I like comfy stuff like this. Like, you can't wear this in the summer. I'd be burning up.
Well, but anyways, talking about pollen and plants and all, you and Kessler took a road trip down to South Florida. I wanted to go so bad.
We wanted you to go so bad.
Like, I was having major FOMO that I wasn't able to go, but I had work stuff here. We still have Cade that was here. He didn't want to go. I just wanted to get in the warm sunshine and was going to make a flight down there, but it just didn't work out. All our schedules didn't work out.
Well, we drove.
Y'all drove.
It took us 10 hours
took a moving
down.
van and
took us 9 hours home because we made less stops on the way home, and then I took advantage of the Florida Turnpike and the tolls. So you're going to get a bill soon.
Maybe. So if that little camera can flash the back of that van and catch the tag.
Yes.
Anyways, y'all went down there. So I don't know. Most of you may know, you may not know, but we have a set of twins and we homeschool that set of twins. And they are also, both of them, I would say, have an entrepreneurial spirit.
Say that again.
Entrepreneurial. I have to say it slow. I have to go down in 4th gear instead of 5th gear. Say an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, that word.
But anyways,
no, I can't say it.
They both are little entrepreneurs in different aspects. They are totally night and day, personality-wise, looks-wise, height-wise. Everything is night and day.
The way they dress.
The way they dress, what they're interested in. So,
opposites.
but anyways, Kessler, one of the twins, they just turned 15 back in January. But Kessler has been infatuated with plants. What would you say, 2 years now?
It's been since 2020. So he's going on 4 years.
4 years.
It started with I asked him the other day what it started with. I'd gotten him a cactus. And then from that point on, he became obsessed with plants.
Now, I wanted to take the credit for his green thumb because...
Oh, no, you can take the green. You can take it because he gets it from you.
When they were little, like, I'm always out in the yard and planting flowers and annuals and
we have
working
like
around the
a lot of pictures
yard.
from
And
that too.
yeah, but they... so he would always be, like, right there with me, planting
we have
flowers.
The cutest
and
pictures of, like, him
planting
plant.
stuff and things like that.
So it did.
I thought it came from me, but it came from Hope giving him a cactus.
No.
Apparently, it came from Hope giving him a cactus.
The green thumb clearly came from you. I can only keep orchids alive and aloe vera plants alive. I'm learning. He's taught me some, but his obsession with plants started over a cactus and try to keep it alive. And that's where he really learned that not all plants like to be overwatered, no matter what we think. They don't want to live in water. And so he went from there, and now he can tell you the Latin names of plants.
Oh, my gosh. I'm like, tell me the common name.
I feel like, tell me the dummy name.
Yeah. Tell
You
me
know?
the southern household name that this plant is. I don't know what a... I don't even know how to say any of them.
Sport
But
variegated,
he
sport
knows them.
variegated alocasia bambino.
Yeah.
Is that even a thing?
But
I don't
he
know. I might have
knows,
just made it up.
And
I don't know.
researches them.
He does.
And, like, you know, you have to worry about, you know, when you have 15-year-olds going through my mind, you have to worry about, like, girls and getting in trouble and looking at the wrong things on the internet and stuff. But we'll literally just bust up in his room and look at his laptop, and he's scrolling
plants
houses on
Yes.
Instagram. I mean, and so
greenhouses, plants. I get
everything.
Plant
He
memes.
just studies plants.
He studies them. And so he's turned it into a business. And I think we've talked about that in another podcast. And one day we'll bring him on just so you can hear a little bit more of that. But part of homeschool, he wanted to turn this into a business, and he's had to do that from scratch. So he's had to build his own website. He's having to report his own taxes, sales tax for the state of South Carolina this year. This year's the first year he officially made a business out of it. He's tried to get to this point for the last couple of years, but he's learning a lot. And so, like I said, I'd love to have him come share that with us. He'll probably be too shy for a bit, but he's done it from scratch. He does his social media. He can just
does a phenomenal
does.
job
He
with
propagates his own plants.
I'm so impressed. Like, I thought I was a good social media person.
He's naturally just really
he's
and it helps
really
him
good at social media.
the way he words things, vocabulary, sentence structure. Like, I'm as a mom, as a homeschool mom of here, I'm pretty proud of that. I'm just gonna say, I'm like, oh, that looks professional.
And he's getting his little name out there.
He is.
It's called
He is.
Simple Plant Farm.
Yeah,
Is
his website is actually the simpleplantfarm.com.
But that's his social media handles. And you were actually telling me last night, we were laying in the bed and you were reading through some text, and you were telling me about someone that works at a local plant house. And she was telling you that people come into her store talking about Kessler's business and his plant. He does shows around here, and so
right.
he's
We've
getting a
been
little
very
name.
fortunate because the right people have come along, and I know that's from the Lord. Just put the right people in his path to mentor him, and that's Carrie that we're talking about there, and she has just poured into him, just helping him. Even when she had a plant shop herself, and now she actually works at a plant shop. She sold that one and works at a different one. And she just is the plant community is pretty cool, which kind of leads us into this conversation. So first of all, I would like to say I would like a little bit of credit for getting way out of my comfort zone. We we have purchased a moving van, not a box truck, but a high top moving van.
And this thing is big.
Big.
It's
very
huge.
big. Now, I'm used to driving. I can drive a Suburban. I can drive a truck. I can do whatever. So, like, it's not a hard thing for me to drive a vehicle that's longer, but this one is taller. And I told Joe on the way down there, he was like, well, how are you doing? And I would be like white knuckling the steering wheel, because if you went over 74 in that Joker, mind you, the speed limit was 70, that thing was just a swaying left and right, because it's a big, giant box. So the wind, it just didn't cooperate very well, but I did it. I survived it. I've named her Jenny May. I like to name my vehicles. I know, I'm weird, but I named her Jenny May, and I learned how to back her up. There's no windows in the back. There's just a driver window, passenger window, and front windshield. The rest of it is
And a backup camera.
And a backup camera that takes up half of the rear view mirror screen. So it's not even like the whole screen. Anyway, I did it. I learned how to do it. I conquered that. That was my biggest fear. I got us down there. We're good. So leading into this conversation, Kessler wanted to go here. So this was Christmas and his birthday.
So for Christmas, he asked for money. And for his birthday, 1 month after Christmas, he asked for money. He was saving his money, and he has worked and saved his money from
his own money
selling
plants.
his plants and through his business. He has worked and saved his money. So that's all he wanted money. Like, we're not huge people on like giving money for Christmas and birthday. We would rather give thoughtful gifts. But that's all he wanted.
Yes.
And we knew what he wanted it for. It wasn't just going to blow it. But anyways, he wanted to reinvest that money back into his business and go to this kind of famous greenhouse
It's a really famous greenhouse down in South Florida. I don't think he wants you to tell anybody, though.
Down in South Florida. But
yes.
he, that's all he wanted, was just a trip to this greenhouse. And you have a minimum order.
It's a wholesale.
You have to register with them. You can't just walk in like a nursery around here and just go plant shopping. You have to have your specific time. They give you a certain amount of time.
Yes.
And so anyways, prior to the trip, I'm telling Hope, like, make sure they know, like, call them and tell them who you are and what you're doing and who you're bringing down there. Not that we wanted recognition or credit or anything, but like, most people, when you tell them the story of Kessler and his plant business and where it originated from, and then you get to, oh yeah, by the way, he's only 14, or now, he's only 15, people are just like, their mouths drop to the floor.
Yes.
And that was kind of what you were telling me the reaction was.
And there wasn't a place to do that beforehand. They're very, very structured in their processes. So there wasn't like a lot of like communication per se. So you had to kind of do a lot through email. And so when we got there, I don't know these people. I just know that he's been talking about this greenhouse forever.
And you've done drove this big van down there,
Jenny May,
to
and I backed
load it back up,
right where
load
she
it up,
needed to
and
be.
bring the plants back home.
And so I just did what I needed to do as a mom. So anyway, we get there, and these dogs, like, we're waiting, and there's these chihuahuas that come out at us, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I throw my feet on the table thinking they're going to bite me. But anyway, this man comes along, and Kessler goes, Mom, like, that's the dad. So it's a dad and two daughters, and I'm sure his wife's involved too in this business, in this greenhouse. And he's like tapping my leg, going, hey, mom, like, that's the dad. And I'm going, hey, like, just talking or whatever. And of course he's talking to me because he thinks I'm the adult, right? So this is my thing. He thinks I'm here to get plants. And I'm like, hey, you're really not here to talk to me. You're really here to talk to him. He looks at Kessler, and I was like, he's 15. I was like, this is his business. I said, yes, on paper, it's in my name because he can't have one in the state of South Carolina, but this is his business. And he just, like, he was really nice before, but his whole just face changed. Like, you could tell that he has to do this, he knows he has to do this, but then he just got so excited. And I got to spend the next 90 minutes walking around or riding the golf cart with these dogs and this man who has built this greenhouse from scratch. And he has so many rare plants in this greenhouses, plural. And he just took Kessler under his wing, and it was so cool to watch because they were speaking those Latin words and all this stuff, and I'm just sitting here going, I don't even know, petting the dog. You know me and animals. I'm just petting the dog. But he was amazed that he was 14, 15 years old and that this is what he wanted to do and this is what he wanted to spend his money on. And Kessler got away with some really good deals. Like, the guy really liked him and he learned a lot too. And he told him about like how he does some of his propagations, and Kessler was able to see. So it was more than just picking out plants. The average person that goes there just goes and picks out the plants. Now, can you order plants from this greenhouse? Absolutely. Kessler was intentional about wanting to go buy very specific, highly high genetics, rare plant mamas. Okay, what that means is I probably just butchered that. I probably just butchered it.
This over my head. Talk to me about houses. I can understand that. But.
Strong genes, strong variegation, mama plants. And what I mean by mama plants is he bought one of each. So he bought a personal plant, which would be the mama, and he bought one that he could go ahead and separate out and sell. Because the other thing is that little rascal is like introducing 8 plants to the area that haven't been here yet. Like 8. I was just pretty shocked by that when we got back. So his goal is to go ahead and like separate the second plant, keep the mama. It's springtime, so everything will be healthy and all the things. Y'all don't want to hear this, but it will multiply. That will be his cutting going forward. But this guy was just he took his time with Kessler, and he could have just like looked at him just like a regular old kid and moved on. But he kept telling me over and over again, he said, you have to listen to the kids. He said, my daughters have taught me so much. He is Hispanic, so there was a little bit of a language barrier in some conversation. But for the most part, we understood each other, especially on a parent level, because he said, my children have taught me the trends. And he said, people want to dismiss the younger generation, but you can't dismiss the younger generation. He said, that's where you learn from. You can't do the same thing every single day. You have to constantly change it. And that's what he said his daughters did for him. And he was just it was really cool. And it's a great opportunity. I'm glad I went. I wish that y'all had been there. I wish that y'all could see his face when he walked in the greenhouses the first time. He talks about plants a lot, but I couldn't even like stop long enough to video it because it was just too precious to watch him just be in the zone. And as a mom, I just sat back and just did the calculator to make sure we went over budget.
He's overdrawn a little bit right now.
A certain amount. But like he was overdrawn a little bit. He owes mama a little bit of money, but it was worth it. I wasn't going to make him put one of those plants back. There was no way. Because he just has that opportunity, and he's already done it. So if y'all are on social media at all, it's simpleplantfarm.com. He is on Instagram. Yes, he is 15 years old, and yes, his mama still very much watches that social media. Mm-hmm. So, because I do believe that, there's a protection measure as well. So, but yeah, it was really cool, and we made it home.
But it also goes into the way we homeschool.
Yes.
Is we immerse our kids into whatever they are interested in. And so Kessler and his plants, we make his plant business part of his homeschool program. Yeah. And so he's allowed to get out in his greenhouse and work these shows. And y'all took a field trip last week.
We actually went to school last week.
Y'all went to school last week, and y'all were able to dive deep into the greenhouses, and he learned so much that we look at that as part of his curriculum, even though they still do math and science and English and history and all this stuff. Well, it's having
conversations. I'd sat back, in the beginning, the gentleman was talking to me, even though he was amazed, but he would still look at me, and I would say, not me, him. I would keep pointing everything back to Kess because it wasn't my decision. I wanted him to I did help with a calculator, but I wanted him to make these decisions on his own. And talk about anxiety and navigating anxiety. You put somebody in a situation where their every dream plant that you could ever imagine is in one space, and you have a budget.
And then so many more that he didn't even know about.
Yeah. And you give that boy a budget. He was he was like, whoo. But eventually, even watching him work through that was a beautiful thing because Joe is very cool, calm, collective. And we'll talk about that in a later episode. The way we compartmentalize things. I am not. I'm way high strung. And Kessler is a little bit of both of those. So to watch him move from that high strung, what do I do, to what's the best investment for my business? What can I do? How can I make the most out of this situation? And so we're basically already planning our next trip.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely going on this time.
Well, we're going to have to put a jump seat or something in that van because you're not flying and not experiencing the trek down there to on the interstate. So, but I think we're going to have to wrap this podcast up and maybe continue it something in the next because Drew just gave me my timer like 3 times. He actually held the timer up this time. And so I saw it.
But anyways, just to say, we're very proud of Kes. And, you know, homeschool looks a lot different. I know we're talking about y'all's trip, but also it wraps into how we homeschool. And I feel like our kids have learned so much more. And I'm not bashing school at all.
No.
Because there are days that we go back and we're like, boys, we're fixing to put you back in school if y'all don't straighten up and do your work. But the way you homeschool can look so different. And as long as they're creating, as long as they're completing that certain mandatory, state regulated, mandatory
we cover
curriculum,
all the bases.
We cover all the bases. But then, you know,
but there are some things that they don't cover in school that we do get to cover.
Yeah, so we're covering a ton of life skills.
Yeah.
And also through this, Kessler has created a full-blown, all-out, well-known business through his school.
Yes.
And so I just think it's very cool the way it's all wrapped up to be. And so anyways, we're just very proud of him. I can't wait to go on the next trip to the plant place down in South Florida.
We gotta take lots of money.
So, well,
we gotta take. I told us to double your budget.
He only has so much room in his greenhouse. That's the saving grace.
Oh, we're gonna have to. We already have plans for a bigger greenhouse that's more efficient to keep the temperatures all year. We have lots of ideas.
Okay. So, anyways, thank y'all for joining. We're gonna wrap this one up. Yes. Thank y'all for joining us on the Gathering Place podcast.
Yes.
And hope y'all enjoyed this episode. We can talk for hours about our kids and all that. And so we'll continue it at some point. I don't know if it'll be the next episode, but we'll continue it at some point because there's lots more to say.
Yes.
And I would love to bring Kessler on. He is extremely shy and very anxious whenever I mention that I'm going to bring you on the podcast.
Yeah.
He gets very nervous and anxious. But anyways, we'll see how that plays out one day. But anyways, thank y'all for joining the Gathering Place podcast. We will catch y'all on the next episode.